he was going someplace where they were having a change in seasons, and they were putting all the chairs away. And then some woman in a very tight dress wanted him to follow. And then they go up a ladder, up a tower. And when he enters the room at the very top of the tower, there is the woman's dress was around him like a turban. Hi, Charles. And also in the high tower. Now, see, I'm saying this is the tower that fell into the earth. You know, it's the same.
I'm sorry, the Tower of what?
The tower that fell into the earth. Remember?
Oh, yeah, yeah, right, right.
Yeah, this is the same tower. And when he ascends to the tower, instead of finding the most spiritual thing, he finds a quaternity of women. Okay? And so his highest tower has a quaternity of women, but also completely analogous. His head, his thinking part, the highest part of his intellect, is surrounded by the
turban,
by the feminine. You know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, the tower, which was the one that fell into the earth earlier, the same tower, it now has a quaternity of women in its highest point. And
No, it's going. Go ahead.
Oh, and then the feminine, the psychopompos, the guide of souls, leads him up there, and then when he gets in there, his head is wrapped in her very long dress, like a turban. So what I was saying is there's almost a direct correlation between the tower with 4 women and his head with the turban of the feminine persona or the feminine principle or whatever, you know.
I mean, the tower going into the earth, that could almost also be viewed as like a pregnancy. And then the women, would be like the birth of the, the feminine instinct.
Yes, I think that because of that, then, I mean, he just, he has a real problem with the anima and really recognizing what it is, and kind of gets it mixed up with lust or something. I mean, I think that's why we had a nature dream and an abstract dream, because it's not sex. It's the principle. It is what Charles saw in his dream. It is the it is the what did you call it? It's the life force. It's both the unconscious and the life force.
Well, it's kind of strange though too, because from what I remember, he said that he's basically being celibate. So
yeah, it is interesting about it. Hi, Tim. We were just talking about your dream. I just was telling them some of my other observations about it.
All right.
One was that that this tower perhaps was the same tower that fell into the earth in the previous dream. Okay, so it has transformed. Okay, and so we go from the place of where there's a change, seasons, a death of one season and a birth of another season, and there we meet this guide of souls. Okay, the feminine guide of souls. She leads us to this tower, and we climb up the stairs of the tower. And at the very highest point of the most spiritual principle, what do we find? The house of 4 women. It's the house of 4 women.
Right.
And also, the fact that the house of 4 women is in the highest point of the spiritual principle is directly correlated to the fact that the highest point of the logos principle, that our intellect is wrapped in feminine dress. So there's just sort of a correlation between those two. You know, and we also got could you put your picture up? I can get it too if you want. If you don't have it handy, I can find it.
I think,
Yeah. I've got it right here, I think. Let me see if I can get it. All right, there we go. I'm just going to save it on my iPad. Okay, and then I got to check to make sure it's not in
there
here.
you go.
Oh, you got it. Okay, great. Okay, so here is the thing first. Well, why don't you tell what happens?
Well, the first part is cleaning up after the church season, and I'm not even sure if that's relevant to the rest of it. I don't know.
Well, all I would say is that there is a death of one season and a beginning of the next one. So we need to put back or store away all the things from the previous mode of living, because
Right.
a new mode of living is starting. Okay, and then Venu,
So-
by the way, is a Indian or a name of Nepal.
Huh.
In Latin, it means something like to come or something.
Oh, really? Huh. Gee. Well, should I paste it in, or should I
Yeah,
just-
go ahead and paste it in, and we'll just finish it, and then we'll talk about Roy's dream, and then Shu sent a dream too, but she wasn't sure if she could come. But
Oh,
then Charles, if you have a dream or Gary has a dream, we can do it. But anyway, this is
were you seeing this?
in the picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a painting I did a few years ago, and it's remarkably similar to this business of getting her dress caught around my head.
Okay. Well, we're not seeing that. Can you unshare the first picture and then put up the next picture? And now put the next one up.
All right. I can't paste.
All right. You can't paste, but can you share the screen of that, of wherever you're seeing it?
There we go.
There you go. Okay. That is so beautiful. It's like snowing, or what is it?
Well, it's I don't know if it's snow. It's just obscured. But here's the muse wrapping her dress around my head as I'm painting.
Oh my God.
And
Unbelievable.
just very, very similar to the
You know,
image.
Tim, I don't know of any work that you've done that I find more beautiful than that one you just showed us.
Oh,
I mean, that is one of the most beautiful works that I've ever seen you do.
wow.
But anyway, go ahead and tell the story of the.
Well, so the little, well, okay, I'll start after the cleaning up the church. I start to walk home, going down this courtyard, and fall into the path with this woman that I recognize from a business. Or a nonprofit or something. I called it an outfit. And we continue on the way. She says her name is Vanu, and I recognize her, but I couldn't remember her name. She's wearing a long, tight dress. She says she's very slight and bony. And as she describes her body, she has me feel parts of it through her dress. I know that she's going to ask me if she can model for me, but she never asks and I don't answer. Then we get to the bottom of this tower, and there's a fellow in a nearby law office window. Before closing the window, he sees me and he says, "Hi, Tim, nice to see you, Terrell," using both my names. I follow Vanu up the ladder attached to the outside of the tower. We climb several stories, and her very long dress covers my head. When we arrive at the top, I try to untangle myself, at which point it's like a turban. We're in a small room with several openings and a small table in the center with 4 church women sitting around it finishing a meeting. They look up at us, and before I can free my head, they see me.
4 sacred women. By the way, okay, the self knows us intimately. So it knows everything about our birth. Now, there's 2 selves. There is the personal self, which is within us, and it's distinct from anyone else's self because it is related with our inborn destiny, our root, our seed, okay? The self knows the law of the root, the law of the seed, okay? And it also knows us better than we do, and it's the dream composer, like James Hillman says, don't worry if you understand the dream understands you, So anyway, the meaning of that is him using the word Terrell, okay? Then it's also interesting that the feminine is garbed in the color of the feeling function and the logos or spiritual function, white and red. So she's garbed in the union of opposites, the union of the feeling function and the thinking function. And she's unites them in her dress. And up at the top, we find the 4 sacred women. And remember, it's the second tower dream out of the last 3 dreams you presented. That second one in between was a real enantiodromia. To me, it was a shadow dream of all shadow dreams, and it should have been. It's related to us, not to anyone else. The dream of there's someone who is the devil. He's the one who is the Lord of Hate. Okay, and then they make a movie about the Lord of Hate, and we have to watch it. We can't, a TV series or something. Okay, well, Gary, do you have any comments about this stream? I can put it in the text too. Just a second, if I can find it. I think I might have it.
Well, Tim, I guess one of the things I'd like to ask is, was there any primary feeling that you had during any part of the dream? And where was it? Yeah.
Boy, that's a good question.
Sometimes I think we don't, it's like, it's more like we're just kind of in this fog going along. And if that's it, that's okay. But if there was some, main affect, can you tell us what it was?
Well, both at the beginning and at the end, I felt like my timing was wrong. So a little bit foolish or something like that, but
too late in both cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were
because
too late.
At the end, you're at the top of the tower, and you're kind of caught in the garb of the woman that you're following, and yet she's asking you to come to know her. It's like, it's a very earthy dream. It's demanding touch. It's demanding, like being wrapped in the feminine garb with the loss of direction, because your head is wrapped, so that's almost like a loss of direction.
Yeah.
Um, and yet, none of it, it doesn't really feel negative. It feels more like a process to me. It's like, like this is like, one of a sequence. And I guess that's all I have to say at this point. I might have more later.
Well, the surprising thing to me is most surprising thing in the whole dream is, well, there's two surprising things. One is her invitation to feel her body. The second one is that the master of the law of our destiny knew our given name. And the third thing, the one that was most astonishing to me, is that at the top of the Tower of Spirit is a quaternity of sacred women. What do you think, Roy? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, the woman's like a snake. Banded snakes have stripes on them, and she's like a snake, and Tim's entangled in the snake, and he's been called out to his other personality. It brings out the two personalities,
Mhm.
and then the snake's presented to the church woman. So that's just awesome. I mean, the symbology of that.
That's wonderful, Roy. The outer or the ordinary personality, Tim, and the inborn human within us, Terrell, who is known very well by the master of the laws, And what do you think, Charles? Do you have any comments about it? You've been really smoking lately as far as your comments.
Well, so first thing, it says in the text that you had some loose items that you were like trying to squeeze into full containers. And so I guess this means that, like, I don't know, that the old things of the season that's ending, there's just enough space to put them in. It's, I don't know, it just makes me think that there's like a lot of baggage that needs to be let go of for the coming seasonal change of your own psyche. And what was I going to say? Yeah. So then you're going to make your way home, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is another theme that comes up in Tim's dreams, is that he's trying to make his way home.
Mhm.
And I would say that it kind of means that, like, you're not at your psychological home, you're not at the center, and that psychologically you're like
Wanderer.
you're away from home. Yeah, you're wandering. I don't know if I'd say wandering, but at least trying to make your way to the center of your spiritual psychological home. And I don't know, I think and that to me is home.
Yeah, Charles, could you just sign out and sign back in, maybe?
Am I
Yeah, just a little. There, go ahead. Talk now.
okay? I think my microphone was just
Okay,
pressed up against my jacket or something.
sure. Now just go ahead and talk.
But,
We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, home is where the self lives, or where God lives, or where you can be living with the heart, is what I think. And the part about the kind of dress wrapping your head up like a turban, like I said last time, it's, to me, it says like that with the help of the anima, that you can sort of have a more like, I mean, to say that like an Eastern way of thinking is really still just a symbol in of itself.
Feminine way.
Yeah, like my anima wants me to go to Japan and like learn Japanese. She wants me to go to the East. Just because like, you know, it's the other half. She just wants us to have both halves fulfilled so that we can be whole.
Yeah.
And I think also the part where she said, or you say like, you know that she's going to ask if she can like model for you, but she doesn't ask and you don't answer. Well, it's like, I don't know, it just stands out to me because it's like you make an assumption about her that's not true. So it just implies that you don't know her quite well.
That's
And
not her
now
focus.
yeah, but she's leading you to like the elders, like the wise women. So apparently there's some things that she wants you to learn. So it's like a very, and then she's in front of you too. You're following her, so she's kind of leading you. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a great dream. Very, very rich.
It is
A lot to learn.
wonderfully rich after the kind of Spartan dream previously. But one of a couple of things you said, Charles, that really struck me was one is every single artifact of that old way of thinking must be done away with and put somewhere. So if there's not room, squeeze it in. But we need to be done with that room. Now, isn't it wonderful how when a new season starts, spring, summer, fall, winter. I mean, there's just this absolute sense of newness about that, you know. And now, to me, this ideal of finding the four women, you know, we've had the House of Four Women. And also, I would say this is that the inner sanctum of the realm of the husbands who wanted to imprison the women by the river has now been taken over by the four women and the anima. And this was from that was precipitated by the spiritual tower of the husbands disappearing into the earth. Okay. So that's a very, very important image.
Yeah.
That this tower of knowledge or whatever of the conscious attitude and of the husbands disappeared into the feminine earth. Okay. You know, so the next dream that considers a tower when we go up, it's just is a magical little journey, you know, from going from a change of seasons, putting away all the old things, seeing this very surprising woman in the long flowing dress. She gives us an invitation to see how lean she is. So the fact is that lean women tend to be spiritual, you know. Now, the other thing is that she is dressed in white and red. you know, the Virgin Mary was dressed in white and blue, you know, she's dressed in white and red. So she is very rich with spirit, but also with the primitive, the feminine that is closest to nature. See, red is the color of the feminine in nature. Blue is the color of the feminine in the spirit.
Uh-huh.
You know. So anyway, Shu's here. Did you have any thoughts about it, Tim, or anybody else have any thoughts about it?
Well, it strikes me that this image of having my head wrapped up means that I have to navigate by my sensing function, which is, of course, my inferior.
Not by words. You need to. There needs to be a guidance
Right.
through the non-verbal. Hi, Shu. We're just finishing up Tim's stream. There needs to be a guidance by the unspoken perceiving of the feminine world. You know, I mean, it's without words. I mean, the feminine wisdom is not necessarily related to words. It's related to relatedness.
Yeah. I also think the being wrapped up in the bottom of her dress reminds me of a line from Man of La Mancha, where Don Quixote is worshiping Dulcinea and says something about kissing the nethermost hem of her garment.
Mm.
So there's this attitude of worshipfulness that that I certainly feel toward the anima, and I think that's related to this somehow.
You know, Dulcinea El Toboso. Did he ever actually see her, or was she just an image? I think he had heard of her. You know, I mean, but I don't think. I think through the whole Don Quixote, she's just a symbol to him. And what is he always dealing with? Tilting at windmills, you know, at towers.
Right.
You know? And it has to do with a windmill too, one that's turning, you know, that is turns by the pneuma, you know, the way they work, you know. So anyway, I think, Tim, that is an absolutely beautiful dream. Now we do have two dreams. Shu and Roy's, both of them are fabulous, and so we got about a little over an hour. Do you want to? We'll spend maybe about 30 minutes on each, and then Charles, if you have a dream, maybe you can introduce it. Okay. Why don't we just start with if you Shu's got maybe has to leave a little early. Is that right, Shu?
No, when you finish your schoolwork. Yes. Hi, everybody. Hang on a second. I'm just sort of trying to navigate homeschooling and stuff as well, but I thought I'd just listen in. But yeah, I might have to leave early if things get
Okay, well, sure.
control.
Why don't we just start on your dream as long as you can stay? She just didn't think she could stay very long. So why don't we start on, but we definitely want to get to Roy's dream because it's just kick ass. But let's get Shu's dream. I'll put it in the text here. This is somewhat reminiscent of her previous dream about the basketball player. Let me see here. Just gotta get it a second. Here it is. Okay. All right. Select. Okay. Here we go. All right. Whew. Okay. Copy. I'll put it in the text. All right. Let's see here. Oh, and then All right, I got to put a little bit more in. Just a second. Okay, didn't get it all. Let's see, back over. Where did that go? There it is. All right, and say, okay, here we go. Let's put in the last paragraph. Okay, well, do you want to start reading it, Shu? Or do you want me to read it, or? I can read it, or do you want to read it?
Oh, I don't have it in front of me, but unless you want me to just tell it.
Okay, yeah, why don't you just tell it? Then we can compare it with the text.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Just hang on a second, Patrick. So it was, I was at a basketball tournament, and our team was like made up friends, some like family ancestors sort of type people that I felt it was from my father's side of the family, and some NBA players. So a bit of a mix. And me and one of the NBA players kept going for a walk before each of the matches. And it was this sort of repetitive theme of us getting lost or distracted and then being late for each match or frantically trying to get back in time. And we were walking around the venue, and the venue seemed to me like an airport or some big corporate sort of building. It was a huge sort of place. And so every time we got distracted, you know, for one time we were looking for the bathroom, and that's what made us late. And I knew the bathroom seemed like an Asian country because it was one of those like squat toilets, like in the ground, and there were chickens running everywhere. Another time we were just met some other guy who was like an office worker, and we got talking to them. And as we were walking back to our match, people recognized us because we must have been famous basketball players, or at least I was with the NBA player. And they were yelling out, "You're late for your match, you're late for your match." And when we were at the games was sort of like a mix between basketball, netball, which were two games I played when I was a child. And when we ran around, we sort of emitted this sort of light and made this sort of pattern on the court, kind of like those psychedelic, you know, video clips. And the coach, when he would pull us aside for the halftime or timeouts, would just be looking at this diagram of all the patterns we'd made on the court, and it sort of resembled like a figure eight. So that was all he was interested in, just the patterns, not so much our skills in basketball or anything like that. He was just looking at the pattern.
And that was the score. Now, what is that at the bottom? White light only.
Yeah, so it wasn't like colorful, like a psychedelic sort of.
Okay, the light that was following us. Yeah.
Yeah, the light that we made as we were running around the court.
Okay, well, let me just go through it real quick, and then let's hear what everybody has to say. So to begin with, the dream ego is in some sort of a group which at the end we learn seems to be a group of ritual at the end, because that's what we find out at the end. So I'm sort of jumping ahead, but it is seemingly the main theme of it, or the most surprising theme, is that it has to do with the ancestral paternal realm. Okay, that is the one that is most connected to the soul. But the other, the NBA players are another type of animus. So the ancestral paternal animus is there, but so is this this attitude of the power to act and the power of the deed. You know, that's what we learn is the NBA player is the power to act and the power of deed, of great accomplishments. Okay, so Then before each match, with this heroic figure, one who is the is almost the ultimate of whoever does this, you know, is operating at the highest level. Anyway, we circumambulate this place of the figure eight, you know, the double quaternity. We circumambulate it, but somehow, so we're circumambulating too the place. Now, when there is a match, that's the place where the opposites meet and resolve. You know, when you have two opposing forces, this is where they meet and have interplay. You know, the playing of opposites. You know, now the venue had to do with possibly two things. One is with vehicles of spirit or pneuma of the air. You know, ones that are vehicles that occur in the spiritual realms, the planes. Now, the other aspect that it could do with is commerce. And who's the god of commerce? Hermes. You know, now what commerce means is Hermes is the one who unites worlds. You know, unites. He's everywhere. There is no middle realm, lower realm, upper realm. He's everywhere, all at the same time. So that's why he's the place of the market, of where tradesmen are, is where the earth and the ego meet. You know, and then they can. I will give. One guy says. Here's how free markets are born. Your newspaper is more valuable to me than my 2 quarters. And then the newspaper guy says, well, your 2 quarters are more valuable to me than my newspaper. And they said, okay, let's trade, you know. So it's a place where you know, we obtain things of value that we don't have, that we need. Okay, so it could be either one of those. In the most ordinary sense, it could just be the place of you know, I don't want to go there, but you know, corporate world is this, you know, world that's very unthinking, non-human. It's a corporation is an entity, is a person that's not a person. So I mean, you know, but I don't know. That seems a little odd in this stream. Okay, so I'm not going to go there. I think it's more related to the principle of commerce, which is the principle of being in all the worlds at once, and also is linked to the spiritual aspect. Now,
probably also because of the airport sort of resemblance too. That's very Hermes in terms of flying.
Yes, Hermes has wings on his feet and on his helmet. You know, so he's a character of flight. He's a character of movement. He's everywhere at once. This is the idea of spirit: is you can be with thoughts, you can move at the speed of light. You know, you with just walking on earth you can't, but with a thought you can move at the speed of light. Now, so with this heroic figure, each time we do this circumambulation, somehow we don't go all the way around. So something's missing. I mean, usually when you get lost in a dream, what I always say is it's a sign ego can't help me now. You know, the fact is that we're stuck. We need some supernatural help, you know, to complete it. So anyway, the real consequence of it is we're late. We arrive late. You know, that's always a symbol too procrastination and the fact that what we need to do is undone and we need to do it and we're not doing it, you know. So anyway, so let's see. Now that we recognize this place was an Asian place, a place in Asia. Okay, to me means that this is our true homeland. This is where soul belongs. Okay, in the homeland. You know, every time you encounter homeland, that means this is the place where soul resides. You know, our true soul, our, you know, in Tim's case, his Terrell aspect. His name's Tim, but his real name's Terrell. And only one guy knows it, you know, and it's the guy who's the, knows the laws of our rhizome or our seed. Okay, so anyway, it's also the ancestral departure point. You know, it's the place, it's the place at the beginning. You know, the homeland is the place at the beginning. Okay, now when we get there late, we hear we're chastened. You know, by some voices. You're late. You're late. Okay, well that's almost like the voice of. Now this is we're learning about the animus. This is a collective animus is telling us, the dream ego, that we're late. Okay, now we are playing, and it seems to have to do with roundness and goals, roundness and the places that well, what I was thinking typically that through using psychic energy, we achieve points or something. You know, I don't know. You know, usually any game. You know, this was the whole deal. All these games with balls originally had to do with our soul. You know, I mean, it was like in the one about the Frog Prince. You know, the little girl drops her golden ball into the well, and the frog is going to bring it up for her. Her golden ball is her soul. You know, that's her soul has fallen into the unconscious, and she needs animal help to resurrect it. But anyway, I don't know. It's just played with the ball, and that's what I was kind of thinking that it has to do. However, it also has to do with illumination. You know, as we are moving, light, we have trails of white light. So there's the fact this game is a game of where their illumination occurs. You know, I mean, it follows us everywhere we go. There's an illumination side. Now, the organizer of the game, the so-called game, the place where the opposites play together, is only interested in one thing: the aerial view of the patterns made. You know, the forms that are made in this sacred venue are, and it's a double roundness. It's a figure 8. It's a double quaternity. You know, it's 4 and 4. And it's also 2 round balls. You know, and so anyway, it's just beautiful. You know, I think that it's one that we definitely need to digest, though. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a meta view on this because, you know, we have these huge arenas or airports, stadiums, and you know, I think there's this instinctive reaction to feeling lost in those, like just locating yourself, like you know, the big question is, where is it, you know? And then, you know, the game begins, but we have a very Eastern view here because it's not the outcome that is important, which would be the Western view. In this case, it's the patterns which are being created. And so, you know, to me, this is one of those dreams that are saying, look, it's like, you know, first you have to locate because that's the hard part. But then it's not the outcome, it's how you play, you know. It's the patterns, that's the patterns you form. And because of that, you know, what's important is your creativity in how you define what the game even is, you know. It's like your choice. And then once you've defined it, that's how it will be judged.
Yeah. You know, they always say in when you are dancing, it isn't a race.
Yeah,
It
right.
isn't the one who gets done the first that is the best. It is the one who most gracefully forms the patterns that are the fortunate patterns of rhythm. You know, the fortunate patterns of rhythm that makes dance like art, makes dance like verse, makes dance like music. And it's just the fortunate rhythm, you know. So what we're looking for here is the fortunate rhythm that we would, a ballerina or a ballet dancer is also searching for. And this coach seems to be looking for that more
There's
than
almost you know, a Kundalini type of aspect here too, because in Kundalini, it's like, you know, it's like, how can you raise your energy to, you know, from the low levels to the high levels? And this thing where she's just emitting a stream of light, you know, it just sounds like this, like, you know, like how can you execute things at the highest level, at the, you know, the most spiritual you can.
You know, when you're trailing, you know, usually when you run there, you can feel when someone runs by you a little bit of a wind that they're creating as they go by you. Here, you're seeing illumination,
Right.
the illumination that comes from forming these fortunate rhythmic patterns. What do you think, Roy?
Can you tell us a little bit more about this other NBA player that she was with going around the Banu?
He was African American. I don't know what team or, but yeah, sort of bald-headed, just a really good basketball player. I didn't recognize him as a famous basketball player. I just knew that he was a NBA player.
Okay. I'm getting a feeling from this dream that there's two cultures here, and Shu's immersed in another culture. But the cultures are like two circles, like figure eight. They're both have integrity, and it's like a track. You can go in and out of them. And of course, that kind of makes a game, you know, a competition where these cultures can share things. And that happened to African Americans. That was kind of forced on them. But the game isn't important. It's the patterns. And so Shu goes, there's the bathroom scene, which is like the prima materna. You know, she's out in the Banu, she goes to the place of the prima materna, maybe the origins of her own culture to get focused and then back in the game. I mean, how can these two things play without losing their integrity, which is really happening in the world all over. A lot of cultures have gone to America and they have to adjust to that because the West has taken over the whole world. And how much do they lose? You know, how much do they think about, well, you know, my culture is sort of in the past, or my culture is this or that. And I'm here in another culture and they're not aware of any of this. And, you know, how much of this is really me? And I want to remember and integrate it in my own way. That's a few things I have to say.
Well, and 8 is a very Asian number. I mean, in Buddhism, there are 8 auspicious gifts. In Feng Shui, there's 8 directions. In Taoism, there's 8 immortals. Each of the mortals represents an important aspect of living, and each god is said to possess a particular power. The 8 immortals are comprised of 6 men and 2 women, and are believed to have lived at one time, but they drank the nectar of immortality and are now gods. In many Asian homes, the immortals are displayed as figurines and believed to bestow good fortune, health, and happiness. The other thing is 8 represents infinite time. You know, it has an idea. It's just a very mystical figure. You know, the fact that it can be drawn like this, also that it's 2 round figures, can be elliptical, you know, but also that it represents as a number a double 4. So, it's very feminine. Now remember 2, we get lost 3 times. So we get lost, that's a masculine number. But in this place where the rhythmic, the fortunate patterns, rhythmic patterns are formed, the highest form of pattern is the double quaternity, or the number of the double quaternity. So it's the highest symbol. What do you think, Tim? I mean, it's just, it's just giving me a little bit of goosepimples here. What do you think, Tim?
Shu, can you describe what netball is?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it must be an Australian game. It's traditionally here, it's played by mainly females, although these days it's males and females, but kind of like basketball, except you don't dribble. You don't bounce the ball. You just have to throw it every time you. There's a bit more.
It's a
stop and
passing
start.
game. It's a passing game. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So it's a masculine. Basketball was traditionally more a masculine game, and netball was more a feminine game. So that's interesting. I never thought of it that way too. There's that masculine feminine duality there in the 2 games.
But the point is still to get the ball through the hoop.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I was thinking about what the difference is, but it sounds like it's masculine, female, masculine, feminine difference. I'm kind of intrigued with the getting lost in the corporate building. You know, if this was my dream, I think I would. I'd be thinking about how this happens when you get into the corporate world, that there's kind of these distractions and rewards that are very seductive, but you get lost in that world because there's nothing about it that is real. It's all about status and money and positioning and all that stuff. And it seems like the circumambulation is this aspect of trying the same thing over and over and still getting lost each time. And because it's 3, the masculine number, it never comes back to earth. It never comes to the place of home. But then when you get to the game and you start moving and emitting light, you are suddenly on the path of infinity. And this feels to me kind of more like a coming home, like you've been rescued from the lostness and now are on the pattern of growth and some kind of coming home, I guess.
It's just this rhythmic pattern. I mean, that last paragraph is just, you know, is absolutely stunning of the what it says there. Very surprising.
There's
Charles,
that.
what?
The light
Yeah.
is kind of the subtle aspect of the activity. So the spectacular part is the game and the moving around and getting the ball in the right place, and the subtle part is streaming light.
Mhm. Yeah, this is sort of the net ball. See, there's no backboard or,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
a game of the British Commonwealth. It's played throughout the British Commonwealth. It was one. It's a pretty old game, but you know, here's a picture of British women playing it. I don't know. It's a pretty old one.
That's an old
Back-
one.
Yeah, that's a very old one. But anyway, Charles, what do you think?
I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but yeah, I think it's like I can see it being connected to the like paternal realm. I mentioned that in
Yeah, keep your microphone out of your
yeah, sorry.
coat there.
Yeah, ancestors from your paternal side. And I don't know, the coach is trying to look at what's going on with like a spiritual perspective. He like wants to grasp the larger pattern of, you know, how people are like moving about through life. I don't know why this is represented by a basketball game. I think that's interesting. But yeah, Craig, you made the point of, you know, it's like a place where two opposites can meet and have a resolution. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this dream. It's really interesting, and it definitely seems like it's a something that indicates that, yeah, the opposites need to be married, but she was just running a little bit late for it. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say, honestly. I'm a little stumped.
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, one thing that just FYI, you know, you got a round ball going through a hoop. You know, in that dream that Robert Johnson had, where this snake is chasing him, you know, and it's just about to overcome him, he forms a hoop, and then the snake puts its head through it. You know, and in the roundness represents our soul, and it goes through this same hoop. You know, in other words, it seems like our soul and the eternal are meeting. You know, here's the place for our soul. This is where our soul resides. Go there, and then the soul, our roundness, we don't necessarily recognize that, but our soul is round, and it goes through that hoop aspect. So let's just go through it one more time here. You know, the dream ego is at a place of the paternal animus, you know, the paternal and ancestral animus. And I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Shu, but I think that in particularly in the Chinese area, there is a divine aspect of the ancestral realms. There's something about it that is almost an icon. The ancestral realms support the outer world just like the gods do. They become somewhat demiurges or something that support life on Earth. They have an aspect. Go ahead.
Yeah, that definitely is, I guess, the case in my dad's side of the family, because they're Taoists and there's a lot of like ancestral sort of veneration, and that the ancestors become the guardians of the lineage kind of thing. So yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Well,
My
yeah, I
dad.
mean, they almost become semi-divine demiurges who are supporting the current life, you know, and so and they're actively supporting it, you know, and that's why it isn't so much a worship like Egypt of worshiping. It is they are supporting us in this world, and without their support, we have somewhat of a loss of soul. So a part of our soul, a part of our DNA resides in the ancestral realms. And I think that the Taoists were very perceptive to recognize this, that there is that is a reality that not
It is, yeah.
recognized. It is a reality. You know, what was it? William Faulkner said, is no such thing as past. You know, that everything that happened is in the present. Everything that's went before is here now. You know, but especially when you're talking about these strange strands of DNA, which are, I think, are absolutely mystical. I don't think there's anything physical, biochemical about them, you know. But okay, now then we are in this place where there's the play of opposites, you know, and it has to do with souls going through a something that they need to a threshold crossing that needs to be penetrated, you know, somehow. I mean, it's just a symbol, you know, but and the venue has to do with either the vehicles of the upper realms, the spiritual realm that has been removed from the earth, and we talk later about the aerial view. That's very important, and then also it has to do something like I'm saying, I'm sort of torn between. It is Hermes is the god of commerce. The building is a business building. You could have said business rather than corporation. Corporation tends to be non-human. If you said it is a place where tradesmen meet, you know, then it would be a commerce exchange building or something.
Yeah, and the Hermes thing to me is really interesting because, I mean, from an astrological perspective, it's the agitation. The Hermes agitates things to show you the polarity. Yeah, it shows
because he's everywhere at once. You know,
exactly
he unites the world. He's that thing that without him, the worlds would have no communication. You know, he's the one that ties them together because he sends messages. He brings messages from the upper realm and then brings to the lower realm, and he brings messages from the lower realm to the upper realm. And he likes the company of thieves as much as the pious, you know. So he's everywhere at once, and he doesn't judge. He's just a messenger, and you know, a messenger of revelation, you know, of both worlds. You know, what I don't know, you know, I could get into it, but what happens here instructs the upper realm too. You know, the upper realm is instructed by what happens here because its goal is to incarnate there or here, in the earth. So it is, it's longing for the light of ego attention. Okay. So it both illuminates ego, but it also needs the light of ego to become concrete and real. Because if it isn't concrete and real, it's latent. It never happened. The only way that it can happen is to not be latent, to not just be potential, but to actually manifest. And the only place it can manifest is when the light of ego gives it its attention. The light of ego doesn't give attention to the dream. It's an unopened letter. It's as if it never happened. And all these dreams that we forget when we wake up never happen. There is a sense that they can have an effect on us that we're not conscious of. But at least ego, it's very far from the light of ego. Okay, well, anyway, then there seems to be this person who represents a somewhat heroic attitude, but he still is not one who is a guide of souls, because he accompanies us, but we become distracted and lost. And it happens 3 times before we actually enter. And Roy mentioned has something to do with the biological urge, the prima materia. There's some compelling biological reason that we get lost in that for that reason. That's so important. Is really the everything happens. All these dreams and stuff. The images come from the body. The body's the one that the spirit, gives them, can help them through analogy. Through analogy, it makes it manifest in our consciousness. But the image came from the earthy part of us anyway. So then we also recognize that this is an ancient place. It is the place of the homeland that we came from. Do you have to go, Shu?
No, that's all right. I'll finish up this dream and then we'll go.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll finish it up real quick. So we get there late. We talked about the rest of it. That the game is connected with illumination and the rhythmic patterns that are necessary for wholeness and for individuation, for becoming undivided. That's what individuation means. That the ego and the inner world are no longer divided. So anyway, that's very well symbolized by this pattern of the 8. The pattern of 8 is where the 2 worlds have united in that little point of intersection. Anyway, Shu, thank you for the wonderful dream.
No, thank you for the interpretation. That was fantastic.
Okay, well, keep them coming. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I better get these kids sorted.
Okay, all right. Thank you for stopping in, Shu.
Sorry I can't be there for longer. Hopefully this lockdown will end soon.
Okay, all right. We'll see you later.
All right,
Just pleasure having you. Always.
See ya.
Delight.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, all right. Now we're going to go to Roy's dream here. Now, Roy's dream is, we're going to need a little bit of amplification on this one, but let me put it in the chat here if I can get it. There we go. Select. Okay. Here we go. Copy. And then we're going to go over here. There we go. Chat. I'm not the best guy at doing this. Let's see here. Oh, geez, come on, baby. Here we go. Okay, do you want to read it? Yeah, this is going to just knock your socks off when we're done with this. Oh, unmute, Roy, if you could.
This dream was on July the 1st. I was living in New York. I decided to go to Canada for a pleasure trip. I was at the shore of some lake. People were around relaxing and enjoying the day. Some were fishing. I noticed a fly rod leaning against a tree, unattended. I noticed the line being taken out quickly. I run over and grab the line, which had just rolled off the reel completely. Then I noticed on the other end of the line was not a fish, but Bob Richardson. He said, "Hi, Roy." I was astonished. I did not know what to say. He stared at me right in the eyes with a big smile on his face.
Now, did you know Bob Richardson?
Yes, uh, he moved to Key West and he went to the UU church that I went to, and he was a friend of mine. In fact, he was the most astonishing person I ever had as a friend or a human being, that I knew personally. And,
Did you know Annie Dillard?
No, Annie Dillard was his wife, and she had cancer at the time, so she didn't go to the church, and so I never met Annie.
She's almost the more astonishing one of the two.
Not
You know.
really. Not
Oh,
really.
not really. Well, her books. Did you read any of her books?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was very different than Richardson, who was really like a scholar and a researcher, and Annie was more of a mythopoetic type.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
artist.
her book, The Stone Speaks, and
Pilgrim at Tinker Creek.
Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. She wrote about the mythopoetic aspect of the evolution of life. About she was just captivated by the image of life coming into being and then splitting up in all these manifold forms. The stone speaks. I mean, what was it? Alan Watts said that that the stars wanted to see them, created the eye so that they could look at themselves, or something like that on that aspect. But anyway, and then Bob Richardson, who you knew, that's amazing because he's, he wrote, and he seemed to almost focus on, Emerson, Thoreau, and William James. So he was focusing on a philosophical view that is very close to nature. And also, I think what William James wrote was an experiential type of relationship to the invisible world. So there's an aspect of this experiential. There's nothing about that what William James is talking about that's theological. It's all about experiencing the divine through visions and something. And then, of course, Emerson and Thoreau were trying to find sort of like I became like this Hasidic guy, was trying to find the holy in the everyday, where Emerson and Thoreau tried to find the holy in nature. So they're trying to combine the religious aspects of nature with as their religion. So it's just a very strange little mix. If you said my three gods are Emerson, Thoreau, and William James, that would be a pretty interesting trio. And now Annie Dillard, though, she sort of reminds me of Robinson Jeffers, this poet who wrote about, said that the earth would be a much better place if there were no human beings in it. If all we had were the seals of a Big Sur and, you know, and the big golden eagles. And he says we were sort of like a tumor on the earth, you know. But anyway, let's go through the dream. But it's it's interesting now that you knew him personally. Changes the whole dream for me. Okay, but anyway, we are in now. First of all, it's interesting where the point of departure is. New York City. We depart. That's the point of departure in this dream. The faraway city, the large impersonal place. So this is kind of like the miners and the deep miners. You know, it's sort of this very impersonal place, you know, and that's the point of departure. I mean, it seems to have this aspect of the sort of the soulless world, that you are in a soulless realm from which you need to leave. You always need to leave the soulless realm. And so where do you go? You go into deep nature. You go into the far north to a lake, okay? And this is the far north would be the unknown area. The lake is the unconscious, the forest is the unconscious, the north is the unconscious. So we're there, and there's a lot of people there who are experiencing life that's not of the one of directed thinking that you would find in New York. They are experiencing life on a different level than what you would find with the directed type of thinking. There is none here. Not just enjoying the day and enjoying the lake. And now there is a lot of people trying to bring the contents of the depths up. Fishing is just this wonderful image in dreams. Jung's son, Franz Jung, once had a dream. He got up one morning, was very agitated, and he draws the picture and writes the dream down. And then he felt fine and didn't think about it anymore. This is when he was about 11 years old. And what the dream was, that he was fishing, and this this person who didn't want him fishing there came and was going to try to stop him. And an angel intercedes and says, no, leave him alone. He only catches the bad fish. That was his whole dream.
I had a dream like that once. I really did.
Yeah, leave him alone. He only catches the bad fish, you know. So anyway, so now you see a fly rod. Okay, now the fly rod is this sort of you know, using some flying insect to catch a content from the depths, you know, some flying entity to collect the depths. But then you see it line, and then suddenly the line's going out real fast. So you start reeling it in. Is that what happens?
Well, by the time I got to it, it was just off the reel, and I just grabbed the last foot or two of the line.
So now you're pulling it in hand
Yeah.
over fan?
Yes, yeah,
And then-
by hand.
Yeah, instead of a fish, you see Bob Richards.
He was at the other end.
Now, isn't that amazing?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yes,
I was just
I mean,
stunned. Just
we're
stunned.
absolutely astonished. What we bring up from the depths. So was he under the surface of the lake?
No, he was sitting under a tree in the grass.
Okay, all right. So
It was
why
it was his way of getting my attention.
all right,
He was like a jokester.
okay. So he saw you there, and he had that line, and he starts pulling it real fast to get your attention. You start pulling it in, and then he comes, and then he, this person who seems to be a searcher, and he says, looks at us. Let's just read what it says. It says, Then I noticed on the other end of the line was not a fish, but Bob Richardson. And he says, "Hi, Roy." He addresses us. And then we're astonished to see him, the other end of the line. And then we don't know what to say. And he doesn't say any more. He just stares into our eyes with a big smile on his face. What else does he need to do?
No, he doesn't need to do anything
No.
else.
I mean, in other words, he's saying that he is bringing us a message of total. You know, it's like he's bringing us a message from the other realm, and it is one that we absolutely are in need of. You know? So, Gary, do you have any thoughts about it or not?
Yeah, so, fishing, especially on a lake, tends to be sort of a wait and see. You throw a line out there and does something hit it or not. But fly fishing is very different. It's a very active and, and very skilled. It's a whole different ball of wax. And so that the find, the spiritual activity, the depths are found by this intense active form of seeking out the depths. I thought that part was particularly interesting. And then that what is brought up is not this unconscious fish, but a consciousness that is recognized and is even more in tune with nature than these people who are trying to become, one with nature, out there that are involved in the eros. So, it's to me, it's almost like this, to me, it's almost like this message of, do this intense practice or activity and you'll just pull up this amazing conscious aspect from the depths.
What I was thinking too is I would have a similar reaction if it was young at the end of the line.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but this was someone you knew personally, so it's even more impactful. I mean, if you connect what you the fishing line, and on the other end of the fishing line, that thing that we need to pull up from the depths, and it is not the fish, it's Bob Richards.
And a very special person that died a little over a year ago.
Yeah, he died in 2020.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
June 2020.
Yeah. What do you think, Tim?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, Roy, is that you are a fisher of men. And it's interesting to me that he is actually the one who catches you in that process. And this idea of him coming up to you with this big smile on his face seems like he's the one that succeeded, but he did get your attention. And now something is going to happen. You're called up to the plate, and now it's your turn to perform. That's what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just very beautiful. That was really good way to put it, Tim. And I when after Charles is done, I just would like you to maybe flesh out more the little bit you teased us with about Bob Richardson. What do you think, Charles? Charles, are you there? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Charles. Are you speaking, Charles, or not? We can't hear you. There, yeah, check the microphone. It's making noise now. If you just get it away from your chest or whatever. Okay, still can't hear you. You think you can come in the room and come back out or not? I don't know if that'd help.
Can you still not hear me?
No, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. You know, I don't understand Roy's dreams very well most of the time, so I'm curious on what Roy thinks about this person. If this person was to, or what do you think the dream is trying to, like, what does this person represent? Why is the dream using this person in particular?
Okay, yeah, most of my life's been spent pursuing what Bob Richardson wrote about. You know, the Romantics were my favorite. They were the polar reaction to the industrial age and materialism. And of course, William James, you know, he was the spearhead. You know, if it could be found, he was the man to find it. And Jung knew him and respected him highly. And so he's the only academic person that ever treated me as an equal. I mean, he knew what I was about. And not that he didn't treat everybody as an equal. You know, he was the academic person that was open-minded, a researcher, a scholar, you know, a celebrity. It just, you know, if there's a remarkable man, you know, he's on the list. And of course, I had an emotional attachment to him. And I usually dream of people that have died if I have an emotional connection. So I was wondering why I didn't hear from Bob, you know, and I just sort of forgot about it. And there he was. So it really made my day. It's quite an inspiration.
I mean, that's why I say, I mean, I think there's an aspect here that it really is Bob. But what's funny is you leave the place of the anti-romantics, New York City, and you go to the place of Thoreau and Emerson, and what do you catch there in the place of Thoreau and Emerson? You know, Walden.
Well, actually,
Pond.
the fish caught me.
Well, that's
Fish
what I'm
caught
saying.
me.
You go to this place of Walden Pond, and who do you find at Walden Pond? You find Bob Richardson. You know, so it's now this is a pretty unusual dream for you, Roy. I do not remember another dream like this. Now I remember the one about your friend who didn't do anything. What was it? Do you remember that? Where
I was dreaming of Al a lot.
yeah, you were dreaming about Al.
All the time.
You wanted him to do something and he didn't do anything.
Right.
And so he almost was catatonic or
Well,
very wordless.
Al was a Taoist, but
Yes,
he was
a
also
Taoist.
a skeptic. And you can have a skeptic Taoist, you know. But Bob Richardson, you never knew what he was because he would never show his cards because he was so open-minded. You know, he was more curious. He would show his curiosity, and he could ask questions, but he wouldn't ever show you a card. You couldn't see his hand.
Well, that just describes Emerson, Thoreau, and William James, I think.
Yeah, they were like
They-
that. The whole
yes.
bunch was like that. Yep.
Just what do I learn from this day? What do I learn from this experience?
Mhm.
But let's just talk about what the meaning of the dream is real quickly. I mean, if we could. Oh, yeah. Well, we don't have too much time. But Charles, did you have a dream ready? At least you could. But the idea is,
I have one.
yeah. Why don't you put it in the chat? The idea, I think, is the dream is has to do with a wonderful differentiation dream that is just bringing a lot of consciousness into nature, where before it's all been, shoe-billed storks and things like this. Now there's Bob Richardson there, so. But we'll talk about it a little more on Wednesday. But if you could just read a dream real quick, Charles, we can at least have something to chew over. But we're not done with your dream.
It kind of speaks for itself.
It does, but
it is interesting. We keep running into this, how a dead person can come in your dream, and
what do they mean?
There's different versions of how to interpret that depending on the context and all that. But it is an interesting subject.
It is. Well, let's talk a little bit about it next time. But Charles, maybe you could just read your dream, and then we'll just end for the night. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was at my aunt and uncle's house, and it was dark. My cousin and my uncle were there, and it started to hail extremely bad. But it seemed like the hail it's almost like it was hailing from inside of the house. And all the glass was breaking from the hail. And we became alarmed because there was a car in the dining room that was being destroyed by the hail. And my niece, Kylie, was taking a shower inside of a room in the car. And we had to try and get her out. She got out, but all of the hail removed her hair, and she was bald. At some point, she wants to know where her books are. And I tell her they're in the Atlantean Library, which is a small, secret, underground library that is dimly lit with mysterious books.
That is an amazing dream. I will get that all typed up for us, and we'll get going on it. But right now, it's just it's a wonderful way to end the dream. I'm thinking too, Gary, about not Ivan, but who's your other son?
Oh, Ian.
Ian. That wonderful trip he made to the underground library. It was so beautiful. It was just, I'm glad he told us that dream. Where there was the aquariums and everything else. Well, anyway, thank you, Tim and Roy and Shu, and Roy, we'll talk. I would just like to talk a little bit more about your dream, just sum it up, and then we'll get started on Charles. And Gary, read some fairy tales. Okay, read a fairy tale before you go to bed. And Tim, your dream was just, to me, it is extremely meaningful. And I think don't just pass it off. It needs to be assimilated with the forks that you saw in your other dream. Yeah. Use those forks. In Rocky Mountain College in Tyler Hall. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday.
All right, thanks.
Okay, bye guys. Bye. See you later.